Hello everyone, welcome to another video here on the MattVidPro AI YouTube channel. If you're new here, a warm welcome from both me and my community. Hey, and if you've been watching for a while, why don't you check and see if you're subscribed? At any rate, I've got a bunch of AI news for you guys today, mainly on the image generation front, but I've got some interesting tidbits to add on to the video at the end. First up, our biggest piece of news today, Adobe announces an update to their Firefly image generation model. You might have actually forgot about this AI image generator, but honestly, it was always quite decent. Of course, Adobe, being this massive art company, has a ton of resources to pour into this technology, and they are all in on AI, which is really nice to see. But their Firefly image generation, which really powers everything that they do with AI, got a huge update. This is actually an image created with Adobe Firefly. I think this is kind of cool. It's like an abstract art piece. To me, the most impressive part about this is the realism with the camera angles and the stretching that happens to the people in the background. It looks very much like a real photo, so that's impressive. So yeah, they give you the typical spiel about how AI-generated tech empowers everybody. It's amazing. Yes, we are AI enthusiasts. We already know all of this. For a little bit of context, Firefly is now available in Photoshop via Generative Fill and Generative Expand. This is like their whole in-painting. Essentially, it's like the best in painting that you can get by and large with AI, and I honestly use it all the time when I make my thumbnails. They also have a generative recoloring in Illustrator, and of course the standalone Firefly Adobe web app, which is like their DALL-E 3 or Midjourney. It's their AI image generator, and it actually differentiates itself quite a bit from the typical AI image generators. I've always found it pretty interesting, and they've got some fascinating new stuff they're working on. What is good is that all of the Firefly outputs are commercially usable, and the text prompts actually work in over 100 global languages, which is pretty impressive. So with those precursor features, what are the new announcements with Adobe Firefly? So first up, they have a brand new rendition, a brand new edition of their Firefly image model that powers everything. This model, this Firefly Image 2, is available in the Firefly web app, which we will be taking a look at, and significantly advances over its predecessor in creator control and image quality. Now, first up, I'm sure a lot of you are already thinking, how does this compare to DALL-E 3? Is it a DALL-E 3 killer, potentially? What can it do? What can't it do? So I'm going to briefly touch on all of that when we test it out and give you my general first impressions, along with observations made by Adobe team members and the community. But if you want a full comparison video with Adobe Firefly and DALL-E 3, we can definitely make that happen, but you gotta let me know in the comments. They've also improved the model's generation speed and apparently the ease of use to realize your creative vision. And what's also nice is they still offer that image 1 generation model, so you can actually toggle between the two inside of the app. And they do have some other enhancements as well. There's brand new features inside of the web interface itself. It's not just a brand new model, and it's all out right now for you to test out for entirely free, which is pretty nice. And we'll get into the pricing and the nuances of that as well. Here's another image created using Adobe Firefly, and this one is pretty darn stunning. Honestly, this pretty much looks like a photo. I would have no idea that it's fake, other than a little bit of the weirdness that's going on with the eyelashes. The hair looks really good, the face, it looks real. So we'll explore this deeper when we actually look at the web app, but they've got generative match, photo settings, prompt suggestions, and here we've got a final generation to give you an idea of what this thing is capable of. So obviously this is a very creative generation, but I want to note the resolution and detail that this thing packs. That's definitely something that it has over its competitors. DALL-E 3 is detailed, but I don't think it generates in a resolution that is this high. Hopping directly into some observations and testing by the community. This is by Proper Prompter on Twitter. And by the way, everything is always linked down in the description if you want to check any of these out for yourself. So this first one here is by Chris, and Chris will be appearing later because Chris is actually a part of the Adobe team. I will mention this is the Twitter video player, so the quality of these images might be a little bit degraded because of that. So first up, we've got a really nice realistic mountain scene. It's at sunset. The colors are really beautiful and really great dynamic range overall. It's definitely a lot of professional photos used in this thing's training. Next up, we've got a close-up of a kid looking at a sparkler. Everything is really well lit, and it looks overall very, very real, especially the details in the hair and on the skin and on his clothing. And we've got an old couple holding some flowers, looking at each other. The light in the background shining through the hair, that's super impressive. All the little individual hair strands are very impressive too, by the way. That's something that's not easy for these AIs to pick up on and actually replicate. This is kind of a blurry example, so hopefully we'll get some better examples in the future. We've got another couple this time. They are in the rain, but I think this is more to show you how detailed you can get with your prompt in creating these photos. A nice jungle landscape looks pretty decent. Detailed close-up sharp image of a bird that I don't think really exists in the world, but it's cool because you can make fantasy stuff with AI, and that's a big part about creating AI art, is bringing these creative visions to life. Girl underwater, this is obviously some sort of creative work, something that couldn't exist in real life. This one looks a little bit more like a drawing than it does a photo, and I'll just let the rest of these play out for you guys so you can get a good idea of what this thing is just up to. It's pretty incredible. It seems to do quite a lot. It's definitely a competitor to current AI image generation models. As you can see though, it is not perfect. This is a pretty screwed up bug image, and I guarantee DALL-E 3 would kick this thing's butt in whatever prompt this is. Chase Lean does some comparisons to DALL-E 3 and Midjourney. Close up, candid shot, happy young woman wearing blue scarf on vacation, white buildings, and blue domes. I mean, all the models do a pretty standout job. This is an easy prompt, light work. DALL-E 3 is very literal, and you see quite the close-up here, so not that many blue domes in the background, but overall it fits the prompt perfect. Midjourney, you get a little bit more detail maybe, but it's not as close up. See those blue domes in the background. And with Firefly, it definitely fits the prompt perfectly. However, I will say the background is a little bit screwed up, but with some of those new features specifically made for photos, there could be improvements done to this prompt, so we'll get into that. Next category by Chase Lean is product photos. Bottle of perfume, clean backdrop surrounded by fragrant white flowers, product photography. They all did a pretty stunning and phenomenal job. Midjourney has some misspelled text, which you don't really want. Honestly, I think that Adobe Firefly did a better job with the detail on the flowers and everything. I kind of like this product photo better, but DALL-E's is very natural and still very good. Bedroom, large windows, modern furniture, gold, luxurious. Honestly, they all crushed it pretty well. I don't know, this is like a really weird object in the background of DALL-E's. I think Firefly wins out on this again, in my opinion, because there's just less weird furniture. It looks the most real, I would say, out of all of them. So Midjourney's got some weird furniture going on in the corner as well. Text generation, this is no contest. DALL-E just crushes it, of course. DALL-E 3 is known for its ability to produce good text, and that is not something that Firefly possesses in any capacity. Aerial drone shots of the Bora Bora Islands. I think all of these are really good, and I would be happy with any of them, but DALL-E's is a little bit too high up in the sky for me personally. Doesn't really give me that drone feeling, more like a plane shot. Same sort of thing almost with Adobe's. I think the texture on the water is a little bit weird here. Midjourney's is pretty stellar. I like the fact you can actually see the palm trees. It looks the most like a drone shot, surprisingly. Close up of an old guy. He's also covered in wrinkles. I gotta say, DALL-E, there's not that many wrinkles in your old guy. They all crushed this prompt though, and the most wrinkles are here in Adobe Firefly. I don't know, there's just the most detail overall in this one. Chase Lean seems to also agree with me on this. Vector graphics, I mean, you be the judge on this. They're all pretty darn good. I like DALL-E 3's as the most simple and copy-pastable into something. Pixel art, again, this is hands down DALL-E 3. Firefly's getting better. Wildlife photos, they all freaking crush this. I don't know, this is anyone's pick, honestly, anyone's game. Firefly looks a little bit more realistic, like a real photo, where these are a little bit too pristine. Overall, it seems like the community is most impressed with the amount of detail that you can capture. All of these are by AI and design here on Twitter. So let's take a quick jump in and see what's what. So here we are inside of Adobe Firefly Beta. As you can see, you can change the model version right at the top from from the image 2 or image 1. Of course, we've got some really nice aspect ratio settings, more settings than you get with DALL-E 3. We've got 4:3, 3:4, 1:1, and 16:9. You can actually have your content type on auto, which is very interesting. Or if you want more control, you can flip this off and select between a photo or an art piece. And now there's this new visual intensity slider to say, oh, I want it to be very artistic or not very artistic at all, or very photographic or not photographic at all. Next up, we've got style, which also has another strength slider. And you can actually upload a photo now, which is really cool. This is a cool idea in order to match your new image based off of a style of an old one. So this could be really good for character consistency and stuff like that. Of course, they've got all of the effects that they've had before. So, you know, layered paper, synthwave, a ton of different cool stuff. I mean, look at all of these different options you have to pick from. You can really go hog wild. Of course, color and tone as well as options, lighting as options, and overall composition. There's also a new auto slider for photo settings, which you can really get into, which is very interesting. This allows you to set very specific apertures, so we could go all the way to f22, which would be a very sharp image overall, or all the way down to f1.2, which is like tons of background blur. We'll leave it at f2.8 for now, and then shutter speed, you can go down to a 10-second shutter speed, which would be like a nighttime photo, or, you know, 1/2000th, so a split-second photo. We've also got field of view. You can go to a wide angle 14mm all the way to a 300 plus. And there's also some advanced settings where you can do negative prompting as well. So this thing gets pretty crazy. Lots of settings to mess around and tweak with. It's a very full-fledged image generator and it's pretty impressive. Let's try our classic lemon character. So we've got our basic idea anthropomorphic lemon character relaxing on the beach, and we can, I guess, just leave everything on auto and see what happens. And we get some pretty decent looking lemon characters. Nothing too crazy though. Nothing DALL-E 3 level. I think in the straight coherence and raw power department, DALL-E 3 has an advantage over this thing. But I mean, once we start unclicking these auto settings and go, oh, I want this to actually be a photo. In my photo settings here, I want this super shallow depth of field, 50mm field of view, and click generate. This should change things up and allow for some real fine tunability and fine control. And there we go. Okay, there's definitely some fine tunability and control with this. As you can see, his arms and legs are gone because it's a photo. Hey, this one's not too bad. There is quite a lot of detail in our final image. It's actually a pretty high resolution image. I would say this is more resolution than you get with your regular DALL-E 3. But the results here do have some issues, like this little leaf in his face. You know, this guy is a little bit malformed. It has a little bit of trouble with coherence and adhering to your prompt in comparison to something like DALL-E. Let's set the aperture now to f22 and regenerate and see if we have zero background blur. Okay, so it doesn't seem to want to listen to us. It's still offering a ton of background blur. This should all be much sharper if it was adhering to those as much as we would hope. Would help if I spelled anthropomorphic correctly. Let's try a full cartoon style at this point. We'll say the visual intensity is max and the style strength is also max, and we'll set the effect to psychedelic, and then we'll click generate. So this should give us a very artistic interpretation of this lemon guy. Oh, and okay, that definitely works pretty good. I like these styles and I like the controllability of this interface. That's honestly the biggest and best part about Firefly text to image. I don't know, do you like this more traditional interface over something like ChatGPT where you just tell it the things that you want it to change? Let me know down in the comments below. And let's go ahead and test out the uploading image to match style feature. First thing I tried here is just a photo of a Shih Tzu, so we've got some really nice generations, honestly. This guy looks a little cold though. They are all quite good, but now I'm going to take the style of a previous generation and apply it to this same concept. Let's upload my channel logo and apply that style to this same exact concept. I wonder how this will play out. Okay, that actually works pretty darn good. This is impressive. It took that same exact dog breed, recognized the nuances of that dog breed and the nuances of the photo I uploaded, and then combined them in a meaningful way. This might be the new killer feature inside of Adobe Firefly, guys. Wow, that's really, truly impressive. I really like that. I know the generation might not be impressive, but the style transfer, man, that's something that hasn't really been explored to its full potential. Let's try a photo of a cat and apply it to the same dog image. Is it going to create a cat-dog hybrid? Oh, and it absolutely will, although it's more dog than cat, but it definitely has the same attributes and features that that cat did have. I can't tell whether this is adorable or absolutely horrific and ugly. I have the feeling that it's a little bit more horrific and ugly than actually cute. Alright, now we're going to upload a decrepit, horrible photo of my face and apply it. Oh yeah, nightmare fuel. True nightmare fuel. I mean, this is truly horrifying. This is the killer feature though, it works. So let's try my logo again, and this time we'll try to make where he lives the lemon-themed beautiful cityscape. Yeah, I can see that a little bit. This is kind of like a rudimentary city that the lemon might live in. I don't know, guys. This might be the best feature inside of the new Adobe Firefly. I'm very impressed. And finally, we are back on Twitter with Chris. As I stated earlier, she actually works for Adobe and is able to provide us with some really useful tips and tricks. So one photo model, apparently these are actually different models, the art and the photography one. So as we saw earlier, if you keep that visual intensity slider in the middle, you get a more studio portrait look. Wow, this is actually a really fantastic generation out of this one. Man, that's impressive. Detail in the wrinkles and the eye and the hairs. Of course, with any AI image generator, if you use words like cinematic or photorealistic, you can change the direction of the image. But, you know, to make it look more like it's a photo from a movie, you can add hyper-realistic to your prompt to get a social media photo look. So this is more like an Instagram post by a famous influencer. You can capture really unique lighting styles, of course, by using the lighting settings built in. And Chris here says that it's the same whether you prompt it or actually use those settings, so that's interesting. Playing with the intensity slider can make things look like actual photos rather than something more photoshopped, and this definitely, I would say, looks like a real photo. Chris also mentions that they worked on text alignment. For example, if you say thumb up instead of thumbs up, your character here will only have one thumb up instead of two. Where you can see Midjourney has 2 thumbs up and SDXL also has 2 thumbs up. DALL-E 3 gets it right though with 1 thumb up. So finally, let's talk a little bit about pricing with this new Adobe Firefly model. It's a little bit complicated. So for free, you get 25 monthly generative credits, which is enough to test the model out and play around. And then they've got Premium, which is 100 monthly generative credits for $5 a month. I don't know who would ever do that. I mean, that's not nearly enough credits for $5 a month. But if you already have like a Creative Cloud purchase, like if you're already an Adobe user, I'm pretty sure you just get infinite generations, at least from what I've been able to find. So I actually pay for Photoshop for this YouTube channel, so I don't even have to worry about any of this. It would be good to list that though on your website, Adobe. From what I can see with this, it's definitely no DALL-E 3 killer. I think that the underlying model behind DALL-E 3 is a lot stronger in most areas, but for specific use cases, let's say product photography or making realism photos, the fine-tunability and creative controls are really awesome. And Adobe's competing pretty good here. I mean, they're no slouch in this game, so they could have something that comes along later that really blows us away. Oh, and the other thing, if you like making copyrighted characters, don't even bother with Adobe's Firefly. It can't do that at all. DALL-E 3 is your best bet. If you can get around the new restrictions, funny enough, which is the next thing we're talking about. Major restrictions have been put on DALL-E 3 inside of Bing Image Creator. Now, it's not so bad like it is inside of ChatGPT, where you can't even say Super Mario. Like, I just did Super Mario Bros. For this prompt, and I mean, we can see the copyrighted characters are definitely flowing throughout here, which is like what we like to see. We like to see that. But if I do something like Super Mario Bros. Making explosives, we have unsafe image content detected. So they're starting to crack down. They're starting to add a lot more restrictions. We all saw this coming. I mean, some of the really bad stuff got out, and and yeah, I can't even show it to you guys. It's so bad, but it kind of seems like these restrictions are all over the place and not enforced equally. Like sometimes a prompt will go through and with the same exact prompts later it won't go through. And I guess the Microsoft team is actively working to improve this and make it a little bit more consistent. I agree there needs to be some sort of content safety filter because I've seen some really messed up generations. But as we see in this example from my Discord server, many creators are facing issues with much more simple prompts like a Giga Chad Eagle smoking a cigar. You know, that should be allowed. In other news, Facebook stickers came out and they're pretty insane and uncensored. Obviously, it's still limited to some capacity, but really it's about as uncensored as Bing Create was in the beginning. I mean, as this text states, it's completely unhinged. Oh, and this was created by Near Scion on Twitter. Aiden McLeod here on Twitter also reports from the STOP paper when both GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 were tasked with recursive self-improvement, the GPT 3.5 model actually got worse over time with more iterations. However, GPT-4 improved in this over time. This actually means that there's a certain point with large language models that allows them to essentially get better over time and learn from themselves just like a real person. I thought this was absolutely fascinating. Definitely check out this thread by Aiden McLeod. ChatGPT-4 vision model is just more impressive every day. There's so many great examples of this thing, but this is pretty insane. It's actually decoding a redacted document by NASA. So it's literally reconstructing text and doing decoding. I mean, just mind blown here. Brian Romeel on Twitter, who actually posted this, notes that when testing for accuracy, it's actually nearly 100%. And this was actually done by testing his own documents. So kind of scary, but really cool at the same time. And this is almost old news by this point, but if you don't have access to a GPT-4 vision yet, you can try this chatbot known as LLAV. This is open source and it's a model hosted on Hugging Face, meaning you can try it out right in your browser for completely free. And, you know, it's obviously not as good as the actual GPT-4V, but it's good enough to really understand what's going on. Let's respond to this image here. The image features a man standing in a body of water kicking a large alligator. The alligator is positioned to the left of the man, absolutely correct, and it appears to be in the process of being kicked. The man is wearing camouflage shorts and is focused on his task. That's a really good and accurate description, man. It's nice to see that these chatbots, these open source competitors are coming out so fast and that they're already getting pretty good. Like I said, tests have shown this is not on the level of GPT-4V, but it's very much serviceable and usable. Oh, and by the way, as Robert Scoble points out, Georgy Gurganov was actually able to get this model running on an M2 Max, so this image seeing chatbot is actually able to run on just a MacBook. How insane. Mighty, mighty impressive stuff, really. Oh, and by the way, this is some more general news, but Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, did go on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast and spoke about a few things. AGI, ASI, and most importantly, that GPT 4.5 is actually on the way, so an update to that base GPT-4 model is coming as expected. And Sam here thinks that within 8 years or so, we're going to accomplish this artificial superintelligence level. Man, the future is going to be crazy. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. If you like this video, please subscribe and check out some of my other ones. If you want a deeper dive into any of the topics we explored, please let me know, and check out all of the pieces of news down in the description below. There's a lot more fine details that I just can't fit into videos like this. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.